Okay, weekly updates as usual on Friday. I renamed Data Science Seminar into AI Updates Seminar because that's what we're doing. There are a lot of updates this week, so let's go. This is me as usual. First is Anthropic Claude. They released a new version 2.1, and now the context length is 200 kilotokens, which is about 400 or 500 pages of a book. So what it means, as they write on their website, you can take the Iliad or the Odyssey, like the whole book, load and ask it to summarize for you, rewrite, like whatever, Q&A and so on. They decrease significantly the hallucination rates, which is good. So now instead of hallucinating, it just tells you, I have no idea how to answer this question, which is good. And they have beta support for third-party APIs. So you can use calculator when you need to do calculations or translation or whatever. I want to point out that Claude is not open source, but if you go on HuggingFace, there are already open source models which also have 200K or 128K. So, yep, what's going on? Let me turn it off. Okay, next is Inflection. So Inflection is a company, it's a startup by DeepMind people. They originally got 225 million and then this year another 1.3 billion. And they used it to make a data center with 5,000 GPUs, like latest NVIDIA GPUs. They're actually in the process of building even bigger data center with 22,000 GPUs. And what they're doing there, they're training the model, and the model now called Inflection-2. And this model is behind their product, which is called Pi, Personal Intelligence. So Pi is something you have on your phone, and you can talk to Pi. So it's like your companion, your friend. It's funny, it's knowledgeable, it learns about you, your personality, and it can answer questions. And on the tests which they provide, so here they have light green is Inflection version 1 and dark green Inflection version 2. And for comparison between them is PaLM-2. PaLM-2 is the model behind Google Bard. So this is a huge model and very good model. So you see that Inflection 2 is better in all characteristics, is now better than PaLM. So this is quite amazing. It's closed source. Nobody knows how many parameters. It's not publicly available, but there should be hundreds of billions of parameters, and the next model will be probably even better. So here are tables showing inflection accuracy on different tests and so on. Okay, Orca-2. So the story about Orca is that in June this year, Microsoft released a paper where they described how they trained a small model using traces of GPT-4. So that means that they ask questions to GPT-4, so they have now questions and answers, and they use this dataset, this synthetic dataset, to train a smaller model. And it was very successful. They published an article about it, but they never released their data. They never released the model. So what happened, people reproduced their results in open source. They create OpenOrca, they dataset, and they used it to train and fine-tune multiple models. But now Microsoft decided to create a second version, and this time they actually release the model in open source. So all the weights, everything, and they also published an article. Well, it's good. Like if you look at Hugging Face, it's now on 86th place, so it's a pretty good. But and there is also 7B parameters, 261st place. But if you look, you will find that there are even better models on 61st and 63rd places, and they are all only 7 billion parameters. And these are Mistral-based fine-tuned models. So although Microsoft Orca-2, of course, is a remarkable thing, and it's good that it's open source, yet another open source model, but you can see that open source community is making things better. Now, another interesting thing about this model, the way Microsoft did it, they actually took Llama. They took Llama 2 as a base model, and they fine-tuned it using the Orca dataset. Very interesting. Miscellaneous small things. Large-scale pancreatic cancer detection via non-contrast, whatever. So this is an article which shows that machine learning algorithm outperforms the mean radiologist. And this means so many lives can be saved because of that, because automating this. Windows AI Studio lets developers access configure AI models. Okay, this is on Microsoft is working on developing development tools for developers. Okay, developers. Google has postponed launch of Gemini. Everybody was waiting and expecting Gemini to be released by the end of this year. Gemini was supposed to be better than ChatGPT and supposed to be multimodal, but they still haven't released it and they postpone it. Stable video diffusion. It's an interesting thing. I think they do 14 frames, something, so they generate artificial videos. Okay, make inference faster by using look-ahead decoding. Interesting method. So instead of generating sequentially, they try to jump ahead and using then iteration method to fill in the blanks. And it allows to do inference faster. Well, it's interesting work. ChatGPT voice rolled out for all free users. I use it all the time when I'm driving because now you can talk to ChatGPT, and it completely changes the experience because you really like you're talking to a human being. You talk, then you press the button to stop, and then it answers, and you can choose the voice. Guys, can you check that you're all muted because I hear some background noise? Kitai Open Science AI Lab. So this is a startup with 300 million funding, and okay, you can look them up. OpenChat 3.5 is the first 7B model that achieves comparable results with ChatGPT. Again, yet another model on the leaderboard. You can check them out. Okay, more stuff. Difference between quantization methods. OpenAI Assistance API. So this is a kind of like tutorial. Long horizon multivariate forecasting. So this is Google, and yes, interesting work. How to do it? Okay, venture capitalists using AI to invest money more effectively. Yeah, this is funny. So AI is used for sourcing, screening startups, classifying them, assuring diversity, and monitoring startups with high potential to eventually invest in them. Okay, this is a very important link. Andrei Karpathy made a remake of his famous video. His original video was 2 hours. This new video is better and it is only 1 hour. So I highly recommend you to watch this video. Google Bard can give summary from YouTube videos link. I used it. It works very well. So you can give it a link and it will summarize it, or you can ask it whatever you want to do with the contents, but it only works if the video has captions in certain format. So it doesn't work for all videos, only for some of them. Jan LeCun, I really like this tweet from Jan LeCun. Current LLMs are trained on text data that would take 20,000 years for a human to read. And still they haven't learned that if A is the same as B and B is the same as A. Humans get a lot smarter than that with comparably little training data. Even like animals do the same. LLMs are doing string manipulation, which is not the same as understanding. Ways to improve: knowledge graphs, vector databases, reinforcement learning. So you'll see more and more about reinforcement learning. And I want to remind you what reinforcement learning is. So this is reinforcement learning. This is how you train a dog, basically, good puppy, right? You reward for good things and you punish for bad things. Okay, hold on a second. What's going on? Somebody is not muted. I hear the background clicking, and I don't know how to look at it. Okay. So reinforcement learning is machine learning technique to train an agent to achieve optimal results. For example, playing the game, like to win in the game, robotics, self-driving cars. These are all examples of reinforcement learning. So it's based on rewarding desired behaviors and punishing undesired ones. The training is done through trial and error, similar to how humans learn. The four main sub-elements are agent, environment, policy, and reward signal. A software agent selects actions using a map called policy. Policy maps give the probability of taking action in a certain state. Deep Q learning. So these are old works. You see, it's like 1990, DeepMind 2014, a Q learning function. So when the agent learns to act, to do the next step, they're learning the so-called Q function. I don't remember what Q stands for. Maybe it's quality or so the value function estimates how good it is to be in a given state. The goal is to find policy with maximum expected cumulative return. The idea is let's say you're playing the game, you are in a certain state and you have selection of possible actions. And as you learn the game, for each action, you assign certain reward. You learn that if you do this, you will get better reward than if you do some other action. So, and this map of different actions and corresponding rewards is called policy map, right? And okay, actor-critic architecture. As the game becomes more and more complex, the space of possible actions become huge and it doesn't fit in memory, so you cannot compute it. So what people do, they, instead of calculating everything like using Monte Carlo or whatever, they split the model into two pieces and they called actor and critic. Actor is the network, the model which does the actions, like it's tactical moves, whereas critic, it's more strategic thinker. So it creates certain function which actor is using to make his moves. And of course, exploration versus exploitation trade-offs. Well, you can, if you know that this move always works, you can always do that, but then this is exploitation of something you already know, but then it also sometimes good to explore and maybe find even better moves. So what percentage you use for exploitation, what percentage you use for exploration. Okay, so this guy is very famous, and Rich Sutton, he is the father of reinforcement learning. He has a book. There is a very good YouTube interview which I recommend. So he coined the term of reinforcement learning, temporal difference, TD, policy gradient methods, and actor-critic architecture. And he was at Google DeepMind starting like 6 years ago. Okay. Recently there was a Q-star hype, and the hype was that OpenAI secretly achieved AGI, which is artificial general intelligence, and that the new model dubbed Q-star demonstrated internal capabilities of doing simple math and so on. Well, the reality is that this is all bullshit. Q-star is a term from deep reinforcement learning, which was used for many years. It's not new. It's possible that OpenAI is actively working on combining reinforcement learning with large language models to replace autoregressive token prediction with some sort of planning, some sort of policy mapping. All top research labs are working on that, including Facebook and oops, I don't understand what's going on. Okay. Anyway, so there are some links here. There is a hype explanation by Abdul Majed, and on YouTube there is a very good tweet from Jan LeCun. Hello. There is Q-learning in reinforcement learning, Wikipedia, Q-learning YouTube by Siraj Rival. This is a very good video. Guys, can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, we do.
Oh, okay. Thank God, because I don't know what's going on. Okay. As the size of the action space grows, more and more possible actions, you can start A-star search algorithm. Well, if you know, like GPS, whatever, how you find route from one place to another, there are different search algorithms. So A-star is a very famous one. And you can do this in space of your decisions when you're doing reinforcement learning. So Q-star is alternative algorithm that uses Q networks to guide search. It significantly reduces computation time and so on. And there is a paper actually by OpenAI in 2023, and they talk about Q-star algorithm. And this is an old video from 2016 where John Schulman from OpenAI explains Q-star. So all I want to say that Q-star is not something new and it's not something revolutionary. It's just a natural progression. It looks like people are merging large language models and deep learning models together. Okay, next is HuggingFace large language model leaderboard. So these are all open source models. And you see that at the top, you have this model from China, 34 billion parameters, and it beats bigger models. This is number of parameters, and you see that like 70 billion, 180 billion, and so on. And I skip a lot of models here, but very interesting. So we have, you see these 7 billion models on places 61, 63. Both of those are Mistral based. So if you look at Hugging Face at these models, they are based on Mistral. And this is Orca, which I told you about today. Okay. Next, yes, OpenAI scandal. Well, you probably all followed it, but in few words, a board of OpenAI fired Sam Altman and dismissed Greg Brockman, who then decided to quit. Then almost all employees of OpenAI protested and signed internal letters, 747 employees out of 770. And this created a problem because, well, there are investors who invested in OpenAI. They were not told about all this, and now they're afraid that their money will disappear. Microsoft didn't know about this. Attorney office, governmental organization. So it was a big scandal, and Microsoft offered Sam and Greg and everybody else to join Microsoft. And they at first said yes, but then eventually they just returned to OpenAI, and the board which fired them was removed. So things are back to where they were, and like there is a new board of OpenAI. Just to remind you that company was originally founded in 2015, and Sam Altman was one of the main original co-founders. And he was a very successful entrepreneur before he was president of Y Combinator. Elon Musk, Ilya Sutskever. Well, Ilya Sutskever is a scientist. He worked with Geoffrey Hinton in Canada, and then Google Brain. And Greg Brockman, he was the CTO of Stripe. So these are all very effective people. And then there are some more co-founders. like Sam Altman was original co-chair of the board with Elon Musk, but then Elon Musk left the company in 2018 to avoid conflict with Tesla, because Tesla was also developing AI models. And the structure of the company is very strange, because there is OpenAI, which is non-for-profit, which controls a for-profit organization, and they need a for-profit because they have huge expense and infrastructure for actually developing these models. Anyway, this charter probably will be changed. I don't know the developments of this. One of the board members, Adam D'Angelo, I want to talk about him because there was a rumor that he was one who tried to fire Sam Altman. It's actually not true. And in fact, they spent Thanksgiving together, and Sam was tweeting about it. So he is a very successful entrepreneur with long vision. He created Quora, and he created Poe. And Poe is a platform for open exploration. What it is you can use different chats on one platform, which includes GPT models from OpenAI, Anthropic Claude, and Meta Llama, and Google Palm, all from one place. Some of them are free, some of them are paid. Okay, next, I really like this guy and his channel, so I highly recommend you to actually subscribe. So he has a very nice video how to use Assistants API, and in this video he explains how you can add a chat to your website, like for example sales chat or customer service chat, really fast, really easy if you're using OpenAI GPTs. So OpenAI, not GPTs, it's GPTs. When you create GPTs, you go in browser and you have this wizard, and you just click and answer questions, and you build the custom GPT. But what he explains how you can do it from Python using so-called Assistants API. And it's not difficult, it's quite easy, very impressive. I really like him, he has a lot of good videos. Okay, types of LLMs and datasets. So LLM always predicts the next token given a sequence of tokens which came before, right? Base models are trained on a wide variety of different unstructured text, and they use generic self-supervised completion. So you have some sentence, and then you try to, like, let's say you use the first part of the sentence to predict the second part of the sentence. So for example, the capital of Belgium is, and then it completes it with the word Brussels. Supervised, also called instruct models, they trained on instruction response pairs. So each data point is a tuple. It may be input output or instruction response, well, same thing, or instruction input and response. So instruction tells you how to process the input to generate the response, right? And you have these examples as tuples. There is also chat trained on multi-turn conversation. So you have two roles and they talk to each other, and it may be question response, question response, question response several times, and it's all considered this one conversation is one data point. ChatGPT has three standard roles, which is system, user, assistant. Example of a completion prompt, user hears a sentence, the assistant task is to identify blah 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 assistant, and this is the prompt. And this is an instruction fine-tuning. User, what's the capital of Belgium? Assistant, the capital is Brussels. Or like these are examples of how you train the data, what kind of data you provide to the model when you're training it. OpenAI actually created their own markup language, and this is example of, so it's kind of like a HTML or XML, right? So you see the user, like here's the user, here's assistant. You see this is entity or sentiment or something else. So you have speaker tags, intent annotations, entity annotations, and so on, right? You can put the same data in JSON. So for example, what people do when they store the data in the files, they usually put it in JSON format, but then to actually train the model, they convert it into this format, right? So you can save dataset in either JSON-L format or ChatML format, and you can easily convert between them. JSON-L format is more flexible, and you can add some metadata, which is not required here, but you can add it to the JSON file, well, for your own personal, whatever purposes. ChatML has benefit of being more human readable. In fact, yes, this is much more readable than this, right? Although it's actually the same thing. Supposed to be London today. Yeah, London today, whatever. Okay. Llama 2 formats. Llama uses a little bit different formats, and here's example of prompts in Llama. So these are just examples. Just wanted to show you that they are different from this, right? Mistral data format. Well, Mistral is a very famous model. Everybody is using it, and this is the format you use when you train Mistral or you communicate with Mistral. There are multiple files used, and there are multiple different files for the model, for the model inference, or for the data. Why separate files for model inference? There are certain formats, like for example GGUF. It is used only for inference, not for training. So specifically, it's used. It's coming from Llama CPP project, and you create this GGUF file only to run the model, not to train it. So the model itself can be saved, and then this model in this format can be loaded and then used for training in different formats. So this is the list of some of them. Okay, and datasets. Well, there are multiple formats. I mostly used JSON-L and Parquet, and then you in PyTorch you just load the file, and it figures out how to load it, and then internally the dataset usually looks as a dictionary containing like arrays of JSON structures. OpenOrca dataset. Remember I told about Microsoft proposing a way to train a small model on question answers from the big model, right? How like adult training a child. And then people followed this to create a data set for this training, an open source data set. It's called OpenOrca. So it's at this link, if you go there, so let me actually go there so you see it, and you should go to the files, and you see, okay, this is 1 gigabyte, 3 gigabyte. So these are Parquet files, so you can download them and open them and see what's inside, right? So there is an original paper from Microsoft. OpenOrca dataset is collection of augmented FLAN collection data. FLAN is from Google, fine-tuned LanguageNet, Google collection of more than 60,000 common tasks for LLM. Anyway, so it is 1 million of GPT-4 completions and 3 million of GPT 3.5 completions. This was created synthetically and then used to train the smaller model, right? And this is how you can load the dataset. So from datasets, import load dataset. Datasets, it's a module from HuggingFace. AA equal load dataset, Parquet, and then you provide the data file. In this case, is this file, which I downloaded from here. And I can then open it and I can see what's inside. Okay. OpenPlatypus, yet another dataset focused on improving LLM logical reasoning. comprised of 11 different data sets. So again, it's interesting. You go here and you see this data set is not one data set. It consists of several data sets, which were filtered using keyword search and then sentence transformers to remove question similarity above 80%. And this is example how you work with this data set. Dolphin dataset by Eric Hartford. This is very famous dataset because it's uncensored, and everybody's using it. It's high quality, and it makes your model smarter. And there is a version of Mistral, Dolphin Mistral model, which is very good, which actually we are currently using. And this is example how you talk to this model. Again, it's important. The syntax, this tags, where you start, you see user, assistant, all these things. Oh, this is example where you use Japanese, and this is what? This is Hebrew? Anyway, translation. Translator, Google Translate was like a traditional way for transformer. And of course, on Hugging Face, you have all the tools to create a translation script. So here from datasets, import load dataset, load dataset, Opus books. So this is a huge thing, and it has translators from any language to any language. In this case, from English to French, right? And then, so this is an example of what's inside this data set. So with this ID and translation, this is the English sentence and this corresponding French sentence, right? So you have more than 100,000 pairs like this, and they may be used to translate translator. Okay, this is a simple example of training of the model. Right, and this is another simple example using native PyTorch. Well, here we're using Hugging Face modules. Okay, this is some more links talking about training. So, okay, let me not go into this. Fine-tune a Llama 2 model on OpenOrca dataset. So again, this is a simple example how it looks, just to show that it's actually quite simple. Creating instruct dataset from a book. This is very good article. I mean, really, really good. I wish I had time to like explain it in more details. I highly recommend it. Creating an OpenAI assistant. Okay, that's what it is. This is an article which explains how you're using OpenAI API to create a helpful assistant. And again, you see how easy it is, and there is more in this article, of course. Next is using multiple GPUs. Okay, suppose you have a large language model which needs 35 gigabytes of GPU memory. So let's say you have two NVIDIA RTX 3090, each one has 24 gigabytes, and you connect them with NVLink. NVLink is this piece of hardware which connects two cards, kind of like this. So now you have 48 gigabytes, but you cannot load the model in these two cards. So your model is 35 gigabytes. You have 24 for each card, so you have 48 total. But how the model can be loaded? Well, it has to be distributed between the two cards. But how to do it, right? If you didn't write the model, the Python code, specifically to run and or be trained in distributed way, it will not be able to do it, right? So in order to support multi-GPU training or inference, the model should be written in a way to support data parallelism and model parallelism. And NVIDIA provides libraries like CUDA and NCCL, NVIDIA Collective Communication Library. And if you use them, and if the model written in a way that it supports it, then yes, you can load the model in the system of two cards, and you can train it and you can run it. ChatGPT and other large models require hundreds of gigabytes of GPU memory. A typical server has 8 GPUs, each GPU has 80 gigabytes. So naturally, these models are written in a way that they support parallelism. Llama 2 also support. Why? Because original Llama 2 with 70 billion parameters, it is 2 bytes each parameter, it's 140. So it definitely doesn't fit into like 80 gigabytes. So you need several video cards to run it. So you need to run them in a distributed fashion. Mistral 7B is a small model. So it can load in any reasonable video card, like it can be loaded in RTX 3090. So it doesn't require to be parallelized. So it is not. But what you can still do, if you have 2 cards, you can do something like this. Oops. And what it will do data parallelization for faster training. And so each card will load the model, and each card will work on its piece of data, and then the results of the training will be merged. So you can still take advantage of it when working with a small model. Okay, SLI bridge and NVLink. NVIDIA recommends to use the rigid link between 2 cards. And there are also flexible ones, but they are not reliable and should not be used. Okay, XOT. Okay, there are different schemes how you make your model more truthful, more reliable, more accurate. So one, the simple input output, right? So this is here, and it can give you wrong responses sometimes. So people use chain of thought structures here, or tree of thought, or graph of thought, or here they present something which is called everything of thoughts. So integrates reinforcement learning, Monte Carlo, and so on. System becomes more complex, but gives higher quality outputs. Okay, so this is the link to the Medium article, which explains it. And again, I wish I have more time to go through all these materials. Okay, I'm done for today. I'm stopping recording.